In my short video on the meaning of socialism, I use the word specie being, Marx's concept of specie being, and in that context, what explanation I gave was, I think, sufficient. But I wanted to give a bit more detail on Marx's conception of a specie being. The German word he uses is one word, Gattungsleben, and Gattung is genus or type. A species is a type, genus. And Leben is life. So this is actually another term he uses, a species, life. And another term, the term for specie being is actually the German one, is Gattung Wesen. So that's the species or genus, and Wesen is essence. And both of these terms, specie being, I will be focusing on a specie being, but you also use a specie life. Both of these terms, Marx got from an important German left Hegelian philosopher, Feuerbach. And Marx is used, and Feuerbach uses it in his book, The Essence of Christianity. Das Wesen, the Wesen is essence, des of Christian terms. Das Wesen des Christian terms. Feuerbach is had a great influence on Marx, especially what we call the early Marx, and his work was important for Marx's transformation of Hegelianism. And although Marx didn't like The Essence of Christianity that much, the book he really liked was Feuerbach's thesis. So, but here I want to just focus on, I might make another video where we talk about Feuerbach's Hegel and how Marx's Hegel is derived from Feuerbach's Hegel. But here I want to focus on the notion of specie being. So, the definition, specie being as definition of is, traditional logical style definition, basically derived from Aristotle. And I don't know about Feuerbach, but Marx was well versed in Greek philosophy, especially early Greek philosophy, but he was also heavily influenced by Aristotle. Anyway, so for example, Aristotle defined human being as rational animal. So animal is here genus, and rational is the specific difference. So rationality, so human beings share animality with all other animals, but what differentiates them as species from animals is rationality. And Feuerbach basically goes with Aristotle here. So human beings are rational animals. But how to understand that rationality? That rationality is reflected in the concept of consciousness. Now, other animals might have consciousness as well, but what differentiates the human being is basically self-consciousness. That is second degree rationality. So it's not just that we are rationally aware of things or conscious of things, but we also can reflect on that very consciousness and distance ourselves from ourselves and by implication from others as well. In this context, the point Feuerbach makes is that man or human being, then man is not only conscious of himself, not only conscious of himself as an individual, which he is, but he is also conscious of himself as a member as a member of human species. So according to Feuerbach, it's not just that we are as humans different from animals because we are conscious of ourselves as an individual, but what really differentiates human beings from other animals is that we are also conscious of being the member of the whole human species. And through this awareness, human beings apprehend their human essence. That is what differentiates them from other animals. So they are species conscious animals, basically. If we use the Aristotelian definition style. Okay. And for Feuerbach, this ability to apprehend human essence defines humanity of human being, but it also the core of human rational power, in that they are able to apprehend the essences of of other objects, and that's what constitutes science. Now, this science part Marx doesn't say much about, but the basic idea Marx get from Feuerbach, and in fact he sort of radicalized Feuerbach's idea. So human beings are species conscious animals or creatures. So that basic idea Marx take from Feuerbach. But how does he radicalize it? He radicalized it through the notion of authenticity. And by that, Marx means that we are really human, authentic humans, only when we live and act as members of human species. So that's what the radicalization Marx radicalizes in that through the notion of authenticity. That is, when I live as individual, looking after myself, I'm basically, not really real human being in that sense. I'm just acting like any other animal would do, and so far so good. But my humanity is manifested only when I act and live as a member of human species that I reflect through my living and through my action that I'm living and acting for the sake of humanity, for the propagation of humanity. So that's why, just as a tangent or as an example, life in civil society for Marx is not really human life, because life in civil, so that's as against Hegel, for example, we are egotistic there because we are just trying to fulfill our own interests. So that's our particularity. But for example, in public life, where our universality is reflected, we are living as real human beings. So that's the important concept. So when Marx talks about species being, I mean, some people have equated that with social being, but I don't think that's the correct one, because species being is more than social being, is identifying with the universal element in humans, which is basically freedom, reason, very Kantian actually. So whenever I use others as a means for my ends, then I really am violating their humanities. And so that's the radical element in Marx, is the notion of authenticity. And that's he makes it into a moral or ethical question. And that we see in, various other writers, who come after Marx, whether they were influenced by Marx or not. So, for example, in Sartre, we have the conception of authenticity. Whenever we live according to our open-ended freedom, we are living an authentic life. But if we are living as if we are predefined creatures, we are living inauthentic life. Similarly, in Heidegger, we have the concept of authenticity. So Dasein as when it is living in a social life or public life, according to the opinion of others, is living an inauthentic life. But when it faces its own nothingness, its own freedom, its own individuality, and basically eventually its own death, and the fact that it doesn't have any pre-planned or pre-existing moorings, then it lives an authentic life. So there, Heidegger's concept of authenticity is different from Marx's, and Sartre's is also different from Marx's conception, but they are similar to Marx in that they stress on the concept of authenticity. So just to reiterate, the species being is when a human being apprehend the human essence, really conceive herself as a member of human being, then is really, that's what defines his or her humanity. And the authentic life is to live in it as human being, that is, as an individual member, as a member of a species which is defined by its capability to comprehend or apprehend its essences, its ability to reason, to live freely. So that's it for now. We'll see if we can, in the next videos I will try to explore this further maybe. Okay, thank you.